let's quickly see if we can add this other part of Parliament and conclude on it. About the committee that's been set up to investigate the bribery allegation that was made by Mahama Yarega, confirmed by Al-Hassan Suhini, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, that an amount of 3,000 cedis was given to each of the members on the appointments committee, particularly the minority members of the appointment committee. Well, they said that the money was handed to them by Muntaka Mubarak, who is the minority chief whip. Muntaka has denied that he gave them any money and told them that that money was coming from the chairman, as they allege that Muntaka got the money from the chairman and gave it to them. The chairman has also denied that he never gave Muntaka any money, or that he's had any discussion to this regard. They threatened suits and all, and then eventually there was a petition by Yarga and the two gentlemen to the speaker, and the speaker has constituted a committee to investigate. That committee is going to be chaired by Joe Gatti. Joe Gatti is a member of the appointments committee, and also is also being vetted by the committee. Is that the case?
No, he's a member of the committee that is investigating the
But he also appeared before the vetting committee.
Right.
On that issue, yes, start with you. What do you say about it?
Well, I hold the view that this is not a matter that will come under any of the sections dealing with privileges and immunities under Article 115, 117, 118, thereabout. This is a matter, an allegation by a person who happens to be a member of Parliament in public, accusing Parliament, and I will not isolate the committee from Parliament as a whole, accusing Parliament of engaging in an illegality through some members of Parliament. Bribery is a very serious offense, and therefore, in my view, it is not within those matters that Article 116 and 117 and going down. Parliament is entitled to set up a committee or even engage in internal investigation. This is a matter purely for the Attorney General and the police to investigate and to establish whether or not the allegation is proven. Now, just consistent with your take, except that I see maybe a bit of a variation, Mr. Oseusu may have, if you like, misapplied or misconstrued Article 115 and 116, that there shall be freedom of speech, debate, and proceedings in Parliament, and that freedom shall not be impeached or questioned in any court or placed out of court, and that, subject to the Constitution, civil or criminal proceedings shall not be instituted against a member of Parliament in any court in respect of a petition, bill, motion, or otherwise. This is not a petition, the allegation. It is not in respect of a bill or a motion made in Parliament. And so, in my view, he was entitled to commence civil proceedings, if he so wished, without taking any fiat from the Speaker. You understand? And in the same vein, somebody can also sue him, except where the matter relates to what he says in Parliament. So it is only in respect of matters that are deemed to be defamatory, made on the floor of Parliament.
But the question we are answering here now is whether you think, what do you make of the propriety of the committee investigating, sort of Parliament investigating itself?
Well, in terms of the one, as I'm saying, I think that is not one of the matters that Parliament can investigate by itself.
That's what you think?
Yes. Then two,
who should investigate?
The police, through the Attorney General, through the police, or other institutions that are mandated by law to do so. Maybe Shraj can come in, but I don't think Shraj, in recent times, they have won my vote when it comes to matters like this. So I think the police, or the Attorney General, can direct or instruct the police to take up the matter. The persons involved can also take up civil action and to let the facts.
The police and the Attorney General, you're looking at prosecution.
Prosecution, well, investigation, and if there are sufficient facts on which criminal prosecution can be founded on, then the criminal prosecution can follow from the investigation. Now, because it is important to situate it, even the location of the allegation is very, very important. On the floor, when the matter was raised, those who are at the forefront of the allegation never objected. So no matter relation to this bribery thing was actually debated on the floor of Parliament. One person said that, oh, somebody said something elsewhere, and we have dealt with it. If it was just a mere matter of defamation, then I say that then it may come under the privileges that we have here. But to the extent that it's a criminal matter, the other issue in terms of propriety is the fact that people are saying that Mr. Jogate is one of those to be a nominee, and also a member of the committee to investigate this whole committee and the member now say the Parliament. I don't see that as a very, in my view, important ground to, as it were, impeach him. Now, because he's only one of 5 people, and we know that now there are authorities to the extent that until you appear before a person and you have given all the information to the person, and it can be said that in spite of all the information which was clearly placed before him, he still carried his prejudiced mind, which he formed before the investigation, to the investigation period, and applied it. You can't say that he will be biased.
What do you say? The Ghana Integrity Initiative says this is a wrong move. It ought not to have been the process. There ought to have been another, body dealing with it. Shraj perhaps should be the ones dealing with it. Or, as Occupy Ghana also says, well, it's okay, they can go on with this, but we wish that this would have been something that would have the Attorney General, the criminal prosecution process would have looked into.
Okay. Before I give my conclusions, let me provide the context. Now, the statements that were made was that bribe was offered to influence approval.
That's right.
Now, in criminal law, we have what we call different counts. So you can have the same conduct or act that falls in more than one categories of a crime. So you have count 1, count 2, and count 3. Now, the allegation that bribe was offered to influence an approval falls under 3 counts, at least 3 counts, if you ask me. One is that it's an allegation of bribery and corruption, which is a crime. The 2 is that is if it is true. Now, if it is not true, of course, it is potentially defamatory. And if it is not true, it is potentially an affront on the dignity of Parliament, which would amount to contempt of Parliament. Now, let's look at the jurisdictions in the 3. Parliament doesn't have the jurisdiction with respect to corruption, investigating itself as to whether or not corruption has occurred. So I agree that, and that the head of corruption, I don't think Parliament is seized with the jurisdiction to investigate whether or not corruption has, carried out corruption. Apart from the legal, but there's a statement in the law that justice must not only be done, but it must be seen to be done. How do you determine? Manifestly done. So how do you decide yourself that I'm going to investigate myself to see whether or not I am guilty of corruption? That is a situation, if it is an issue of corruption, that falls within the police to investigate, or Shraj, under Article 218E. Shraj can carry out that. Now, if this is not true, and then it would fall under either contempt or defamation, Parliament does have the constitutional right to set up a committee to investigate. That is provided for in the articles, in the Constitution, from Article 116 to the rest of the articles.
197 particularly, I think, yeah.
Exactly. Parliament can do that. Now, but what I find intriguing is that I read from the reports that a petition was placed.
Yes, petition by the 3 guys.
By the 3 guys. So then we now move from the allegations in the media to the petition. And I think Article 116 then becomes relevant. Article 116, if I may read, it says that subject to the provisions of this article, but without prejudice to the general effect of Article 115 of this Constitution, civil or criminal proceedings shall not be instituted against a member of Parliament in any court or place out of Parliament for any matter or thing brought by him in or before Parliament by petition, bill, motion, or otherwise. The issue then becomes, does the petition that was brought fall under 116? If the petition falls under 116, then although the institutions, the other state institutions, their jurisdiction is not expressly ousted because a petition has been brought, the interesting thing is that their work then becomes difficult, if not impossible, if they decide to investigate this matter. The reason their work becomes difficult is that, let's go to Article 118. the immunity from witness summons, which means that these investigative bodies cannot, if they invite, they are not compellable witnesses. What we mean by compellable witnesses is that you cannot compel them to come and give evidence. So if you are carrying out your investigations, what Article 118 is suggesting is that you can't, outside of Parliament, you can't compel them to come and give statements.
I think it says whilst attending Parliament.
Yes, whilst attending.
Important.
Yes, whilst attending
so
Parliament.
on other occasions, they may be compelled.
Yes, whilst attending Parliament, you cannot compel them. Yes, but then come to Article 1214. If the committee starts its work and then they start giving evidence, the committee even comes out with a report under Article 1214. The answers and the statements made in that report, you can't use it against them anywhere. So the effect then being that once they have set up a committee, if the witnesses appear at the committee and they make statements and then they finish, of course, we have agreed that the corruption thing, they don't even have jurisdiction. But then, of course, if they had decided that the statement is a lie, for example, and then they decide to use Article 116, which says that you should either apologize or on failure to apologize, your privileges are suspended. The effect of Article 1214 is that they manage to get more or less that the records and the report of that committee protected from production in evidence in any court or any other place against them in civil or criminal proceedings. So I actually find the process of setting up the committee quite interesting. I think that by that way, Parliament more or less is going to make it difficult, extremely difficult. That if I have heard Siraj saying that if the outcome is not satisfactory, then they will investigate. Exactly. The issue is how do you determine that the outcome is not satisfactory? And even if you determine that, what are you going to do about Article 1214?
Okay.
Yeah. So, but then just a quick one. I think that the proceedings may be used in where a case of perjury has been brought in a criminal law, and also if it turns out to be false, can't they be charged with deceiving public officers, which is an offense that is...
Nana, what do you say about listening to... You have been in Parliament. Listening to Yao and Clara, what do you say? Clara would have preferred perhaps that is taking on a tangent that would have been Parliament doing the aspect of contempt, whether they were in contempt, and then there can be a criminal prosecution, and then there can be also a civil process. If it had been the process towards contempt, you know that the Constitution provides, and when I was referring, I said 19 something, it's actually 97 thereabout, that if, you know, a member was found to be in contempt of Parliament, that could be the basis for which you'll be expelled from the House. People want something like that. Yes.
1 to 2 as well.
Well, thank you. The Parliamentary Committee is obviously investigating the terms of reference includes contempt. It includes finding out what the truth is. So the findings of the committee should inform the subsequent actions that may then be taken by other organs of state. If it finds on contempt, Parliament itself will deal with it. If it finds that there's some truth in the allegation of bribery, other state organs will then proceed on it and so on. So for now, I would wish that let a committee do its work.
Should they do it in camera as they are supposed to be doing now? People say it should be done in the open. The television camera should be there. We should all follow the process.
Yes. Is it because the issue involves Parliament itself and senior members of Parliament, and Parliament is investigating? The public interest will be served if the proceedings are done in public, that is televised. Okay. So I wish that Parliament itself insists, because of the problem of conflict of interest. It's not an external body that is investigating Parliament. It's an internal parliamentary body investigating conduct of members of Parliament. Okay. So to improve credibility and the public accountability, they should have these proceedings televised. Okay. In fact, sometimes proceedings at the Privileges Committee are against other citizens are broadcast.
That's right.
So Parliament should take a cue
That's a good one.
and have these proceedings televised. Okay. It would improve the public accountability and credibility and all of that.
Right.
But something beyond that, this case is just bizarre. So many aspects of it that defies understanding.
Quickly, then we hear Adomo, then we take a break.
You have a situation where the main actors are in 100% contradiction. There is no room for interpretation. You have an accusation that the minority chiefship gave us monies that were supposed to be bribed. Then and then there are 2 or 3, 4 people, members of making that allegation against the minority chiefship, incidentally from the same minority party. That whole basis of the minority members making a categorical allegation against their leader, that their leader is engaged in facilitating bribery, is extraordinary. Never happened. Okay, then you have the situation where the leader says also a categorical denial. It's not like, oh yes, I gave you money, but it's not bribery.
On religious wolf.
He's not saying, I gave you the money, but it is not bribery. Okay. He's saying that I never gave you any money.
Did he say that? I think he was qualified. He said, I never gave you money, saying that it is coming from Joe Osei as you allege.
Yeah, so what did he say?
I see two.
Did he say
I see 2 different situations?
Okay.
I may have given you money.
Yes, but the allegation
from Joe Osei as you claim.
The allegation
and
is
Joe Osei came and also said, I did not give money to Muntaka.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. The allegation was not that he's giving us money. The allegation is that he gave us money that is bribe money. He told us it's bribe money from Ajaku.
Sent through Joe Osei.
Sent through Joe Osei. He says that I never gave you money and told you the money is from Ajaku.
Correct.
Sent through Osei.
Right.
Osei too, so that's a categorical denial against
of the
what
source
they have said.
of the money.
Then Osei, who was supposed to have given it, also says, I never gave Muntaka any money. The Ajaku, who was supposed to be the beneficiary, also says, I never gave any money. So you have a clear, categorical confrontation on the face of the facts.
Okay.
That has to. The other point that let's mention briefly.
No, but before that, this thing you are talking about, what was the practice when you were in Parliament?
That's what I'm coming to. You see, this business of the bribe, the members of Parliament involved, they took the money. They've so admitted. On what basis did they take the money? They didn't find out the reason for the money. The normal practice is that when a committee of Parliament is entitled to allowances, the clerk of the committee is the one who dishes out the money. And there's a form in which the names of the 24 members of Parliament are. The various amounts are clearly stated. And the purpose for the money is clearly stated on the form. So when you're giving the money, you sign against your name that I've received 2,000 cedis or 3,000 cedis. Why did the members of Parliament, according to their own claim, go and take money from their leader? It's irregular. And when they took the money, if it's for bribery, it means that the money was supposed to constrain their action. Now, why were they not then told that, Charlie, this money is meant for you to approve Ajaku? They were not told at the point of receipt. They took the money away. Some of them may have spent it. Then they said that later on, they heard that, hey, Charlie, that 3,000 that was given is Ajaku money. But then they have taken it under circumstances that were completely irregular. And they were not told of the purpose of the money at the point that they took the money. So they themselves, they knew this thing, assuming the money actually happened. They knew that they were doing something illegal.
Let's come to Adamu here. Yeah. He's saying, maybe before you get to the committee and the propriety of the committee and what you expect of it, he's saying that this was very irregular. Almost all the members of Parliament who have spoken to this issue say this was irregular, that they could not have gone take this money and suggest to the world that they expected that money to be their allowance. That even if it were to be allowance, the allowances are paid quarterly and they are not paid through such a process. Again, there are other members of Parliament who have come forward to suggest that because the Irama Day committee, because the Boando committee all have said that the MP should not do their normal job and take money. Because of that, these committees were being denied their allowances. And so there was something that had been established that you find some way of giving them something, some, money for water, TNT sort of, which is money that normally comes, but it's not an allowance. And that some members are used to this. So why would they take this and come out to the public and suggest that this is bribe?
Well, I think first, I will not go into the merits and demerits of this issue because that is within the remit of the committee that has been set up by the Speaker. And so all these answers will be found when the committee does its work. And so I will not be able to go into that. But all I can say is that first we have to understand that Parliament has the power to set up a committee. And indeed, apart from the standing and select committees, our standing orders allows the Speaker to set up an ad hoc or a special committee to deal with matters that are not covered by the standing and select committees. And so it is completely right to have a committee. Now, how did the Parliament itself get involved in this? The actors in this matter, one, a group of 5 submitted a petition. And that petition was admitted.
A group of 3.
Let's say 3, yes. And that was admitted by the Speaker. The chairman of the committee on appointment made a statement on the floor, and that statement was admitted. Another colleague member also made a statement. And in his statement, whilst the chairman was asking for the Speaker to give him leave to lift on the honorable member so he could sue, the other colleague member's statement was to the effect that the matter should be referred to the Privileges Committee. There were arguments to support the fact that going to the Privileges Committee may not be the appropriate venue. And so you couldn't find an existing committee that could deal with it. And so under the circumstances, the Speaker had to set up a special committee to deal with this matter. For me, that is completely legitimate. As to whether or not some monies were taken, monies were not taken, whether it was regular, irregular, that would be very presumptive.
Should they do their work closed also in the open? Like Akomia says, it should be in the open. The advocacy is for them to do it in the open.
Well, that is what he wants.
Where do you stand?
In my case, I stand with making sure that this is carried out within the remit and the procedure and processes that the committee deems
That's not
fit.
the question. Should it be in camera or for the public to watch?
It should be in camera.
It should be in camera?
Yes.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a short response on the issue about Parliament. Yes, Parliament does have the powers the powers to set up a committee, but those committees must. It is for the effective discharge of its functions.
Yes.
Mm.
So with respect to the statements that we are talking about, yes, Parliament has the power to set up a committee, but again, it depends on what count or exactly how they are looking at it. It doesn't mean that it is at large. So yes, if they are looking at whether or not the statements are true, the committee can do that. If they are looking at whether or not, of course, and then of course the consequence of it being true or not being true, what we are saying is that if they are going to investigate whether or not there has been corruption, that is where
the issue is.
So we take a break here, and when we return, I will share with you messages that you have brought in, and we have a number of issues to look at. One text, for example, says that I completed Tamale Secondary School, Tamasco, in 2002. My highest education is SSCE. Now, President Nana Akufo-Addo has appointed me as a Minister for Gender and Social Protection. Per National Service Act, secondary school leavers are not entitled to national service. Again, the national service, blah, blah. He says, so can he become a minister then because he hasn't done national service? We'll be right back.